A millionaire asked his young maid to pretend to be his girlfriend, but he truly loved her. The sound of heels echoed across the glass and steel boardroom of Westwood Tech, the leading tech empire in Silicon Valley. An elderly woman with silver hair, sharp posture, and eyes that hadn't lost an ounce of fire stepped in between the rows of high-ranking executives. "Ethan Westwood, take a seat," came the voice of Evelyn Westwood, calm but commanding. Ethan paused mid-sip of his espresso. With a reluctant sigh, he set the cup down and walked over to sit across from the only person on earth who could still make him nervous, the family matriarch herself. "What's the emergency that needed a full boardroom, Grandma?" he asked politely, though his tone carried his usual cool detachment. Evelyn didn't answer immediately. She laid a folder on the table, thick, clean, and clearly important. The room fell quiet. Julian, Ethan's cousin, leaned back in his chair, smirking like he'd already won something. "I don't have much time left," Evelyn finally spoke, her voice firm. "And I won't leave this world without seeing my grandson walk down the aisle." Ethan let out a dry laugh. "Grandma, marriage isn't a boardroom strategy." "No, but it is a condition," Evelyn said sharply. "If within 30 days you are not standing at the altar with someone beside you, your entire inheritance will be passed on to Julian." Silence swallowed the room. Julian straightened in his seat, clearly pleased. Ethan turned his head slowly toward his cousin, then back to his grandmother. "You're kidding." "This is the amended will." Evelyn slid a page forward. "Signed by the estate attorney. It's legal." "You want me to marry someone just to protect my assets?" Ethan said quietly, each word deliberate. "Do you honestly believe that's a real marriage?" "It's not about money," Evelyn replied, her voice softening for the first time. There was a sadness in her eyes that caught Ethan off guard. "It's about your future. You've been alone too long, Ethan. I just want to know someone will truly be by your side." Ethan fell silent. For all his resolve, his heart tugged at her words, but his mind screamed he couldn't marry someone under pressure. "This is about Julian, isn't it?" he said, narrowing his gaze. "You're gambling everything just to scare me?" Evelyn didn't respond. She only nodded slowly. Julian leaned back, folding his arms with a victorious smile. Ethan clenched his jaw. A storm of calculations ran through his mind. He had never intended to marry, but he sure as hell wasn't letting Julian take everything he built. He needed a plan, fast. Just 2 days after the will meeting, the Westwood estate in Napa Valley transformed into a runway for the rich and beautiful. Evelyn Westwood, efficient and determined like a political strategist, had arranged a meet and greet for potential brides. The garden was lined with white tents, elegant tea sets, and fresh flowers in every corner. In truth, it looked more like a high society version of The Bachelor. "The next one is Chloe Garcia, daughter of a state senator," said Rosa, the longtime housekeeper, standing at the office door. "Tell them I'm in a board meeting," Ethan replied coldly without looking up from his iPad. "Also tell them I'm not interested in some kind of luxury bride auction." He walked briskly past the rows of women fixing their dresses, checking lipstick, and practicing their sweet smiles. All of them looked the same. Polished, perfect, and utterly soulless. Ethan headed straight to the kitchen, the only place in the mansion not reeking of perfume and pretense. And that's where he saw her, a young woman with tied-back hair, wearing a flour-dusted apron, scrubbing dishes at the sink, a smudge of oil on her cheek, soap bubbles on her hands, forehead glistening with sweat. Yet her eyes sparkled. She looked genuinely happy doing what she was doing. Weird. She turned around abruptly. Her eyes widened in surprise at the sight of Ethan leaning against the doorframe, hands in his pockets. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know anyone was here," she stammered, pushing a few strands of hair behind her ear and lowering her head shyly. Ethan didn't reply. He just watched, not with his usual calculating stare, but with the look of someone who, for the first time in years, had paused, simply paused. "Do you want a glass of water?" she offered, turning slightly, only to fumble and drop a plate. "Relax," Ethan said. "I don't bite." She chuckled nervously. "Good to know. It's my first day. I haven't even signed the paperwork yet, and here I am breaking stuff." Ethan tilted his head, still watching. "Name?" "Mia Flores." He nodded. The name echoed in his head like a subtle bell. No pedigree, no glam squad, no PR lines. But something about her felt real. "New hire?" "Yes, sir. Ms. Rosa interviewed me this morning. I guess no one else wanted to wash dishes, so here I am." Ethan was quiet for a moment. Then, unexpectedly, he said, "You're good at it." Mia blushed. Thanks?" "No, I mean it." He stepped inside, picked up a towel, and dried the plate she'd just washed. "I've hired a lot of people. Not many smile while doing this job." Mia laughed. "Well, if I don't smile, I'd go crazy. Besides, I feel warmer in here than out in that garden. It's cold out there, even with all the sunshine." Ethan smiled, a rare, unguarded one. Not because she was the perfect candidate, but because she was the first woman who didn't try to impress him. He leaned back against the counter, giving her one last thoughtful glance. And in that moment, a ridiculous idea took shape in his mind. The next morning, while the staff were busy cleaning up the aftermath of the bride showcase, Ethan was sitting in his private office, eyes locked on a New York expansion report. But his mind was nowhere near numbers. The image of Mia Flores, messy hair, flower-streaked apron, and those bright, unbothered eyes kept looping in his head like a broken reel. Suddenly, he stood up, walked briskly down the hall, and went straight to the kitchen. Mia was slicing onions, wearing gloves, softly humming some unidentifiable tune. "We need to talk," Ethan said, standing behind her. Mia turned, startled. "Did I do something wrong?" "No, but I'm about to do something crazy, and I need an accomplice." She blinked. "Come again?" Ethan crossed his arms, leaning against the counter. "I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend, for 1 month, in front of my family." "What?" Mia nearly dropped the knife. "Did you just say, pretend girlfriend?" "Yes, in return I'll pay you $5,000. Mia's mouth fell open. "Just to pretend to be your girlfriend?" "Exactly. 1 month, act the part. No falling in love. Nothing real. Just a deal." She looked at him, clearly trying to assess whether he'd gone completely off the rails. "Did you get banned from Tinder or something?" Ethan chuckled. "Not quite. This isn't about love. It's about my grandmother. She gave me an ultimatum. Marry in 30 days or lose everything to Julian. And I'm not handing it all over to him." "Julian? That guy who always looks like he just smelled garbage?" "Yep, that's him." Mia bit her lip. She wasn't saying no, but she wasn't saying yes either. "You need the money?" Ethan asked softly. She lowered her eyes. "My mom's in treatment, and I'm 3 months behind on rent." Silence. A few beats later, Mia looked up, meeting his gaze. $5,000 not enough. Make it $7,000, and I'm not wearing polka-dotted pink dresses." Ethan raised a brow, then extended his hand. "A deal?" Mia shook it, slowly but firmly. "Deal." They held each other's gaze, a cold tech CEO and a humble chef. They had just made an agreement that neither of them realized would change their lives forever. 3 days after the historic deal, the Westwood estate was no longer the quiet venue of high-level meetings. It had become a living rom-com set. "Stand up straight, shoulders back, chin up 3 centimeters. You're walking like you lost your slippers, not like a woman from high society," said Pierre, Ethan's personal stylist, his voice sharp as his haircut. "Have you tried wearing these?" Mia winced, clutching the armrest. Every step is a death wish. Ethan sat on the sofa, arms crossed, silently watching. No doubt, Mia was clumsy, awkward, completely out of place in a world of crystal glasses, silk gowns, and champagne flutes. But that's what made her interesting. "Walk like you own the room, not like you're about to trip into a recycling bin," Pierre added, eyes glued to her off-balance steps. "I think I'm more of a sneakers girl," Mia mumbled. Finally, Ethan spoke. "That's enough. She gets a 10-minute break." Pierre groaned dramatically and walked off. Ethan got up and approached Mia. She was unstrapping her heels, breathing like she'd run a marathon. "You okay?" he asked. "Totally, if your plan is to turn me into a Victoria's Secret model. But if I'm just your fake girlfriend, this might be overkill." "It has to be convincing. My grandmother can tell the difference between a high-bred debutante and a stage act." "Let me get this straight." Mia tilted her head. "Do you want me to pretend to be your girlfriend or become the girlfriend society expects from you?" Ethan paused for a beat. "The second one." Mia exhaled. "This game is more exhausting than I thought." That afternoon, they moved on to Fine Dining 101. A long, white tablecloth, utensils measured to perfection, candlelight bouncing off crystal glasses. "Is this dinner or military inspection?" Mia whispered. Ethan smirked. "Ever cut steak with a knife and fork before?" he asked. "I usually use a fork and hold the plate with the other hand," Mia said. Deadpan. "Okay, lesson 1. Don't swallow the whole steak at once." "You said no love, not no appetite." Ethan chuckled. Mia glanced at him and noticed for the first time that without the suits and scowls, Ethan looked almost approachable. That evening, after hours of walking, smiling, sipping wine, and laughing appropriately, Mia sat on the living room floor, holding a can of soda. Ethan appeared with a glass of red and quietly sat beside her. "Am I doing okay?" she asked softly. "Better than I expected," he replied, eyes sincere. "Mia, why did you agree to this? It's not just about the money, right?" She looked at him. Her gaze softened. "Because of my mom. Because I wanted to do something crazy for once. And because of that quiet sadness in your eyes that day." Ethan didn't say anything, but something inside him, something solid, started to melt. The next morning, Mia came down the stairs in an ivory midi dress, hair pinned back, nude heels fitting just right. Ethan, already waiting in the foyer, stood up when he saw her. "Wow," he breathed. "Do I look like someone who could pass as a CEO's girlfriend?" Mia asked. "No," Ethan replied, then smiled. "You look like someone who'd make the CEO pretend he's not falling for her." They looked at each other for 1 second, and in that second, everything started to feel not so fake anymore. And just like that, everything began to shift. No more stiff lessons, no more cold contracts between strangers. Things started to feel real. Ethan began to look at Mia differently. Not like a CEO assessing a project, but like a man afraid of losing something he didn't expect to want. Mia could feel it too, the way he looked at her, the quiet care behind his silence, the pauses that lasted just a little longer than before. Then came the Westwood family's annual charity gala, a night where the entire elite circle would be watching. And for Ethan and Mia, the question lingered. Crystal chandeliers cast golden light over the grand ballroom of the Carlton Hotel, the venue for Westwood Tech's annual charity gala. The room buzzed with luxury perfume and carefully curated conversations. Ethan, sharp in a tailored tuxedo, walked in beside Mia, who momentarily brought the entire room to a standstill. She wore a simple black silk gown, no sequins, no shimmer, but it fit her so effortlessly it was impossible not to look. Ethan was used to women beside him being crafted by stylists and PR teams. But Mia walked into that room as herself. And that made him jealous. Not jealous because she looked beautiful, but because every gaze from friends, investors, even former flames was drawn to her, and Mia didn't even notice. She smiled at the right moments, shook the right hands, and even chatted about Italian cuisine with a Michelin-starred chef at the next table. Ethan found himself unsettled. He didn't remember teaching her any of that. Maybe it was instinct, or maybe he had never really seen all of who she was. From a quiet corner, Julian stared at Mia. Not like a man interested, but like a predator watching prey that had gotten too close to power. "There's something off," he muttered. "No way she just walked into Ethan's life like that." The next morning, Julian hired someone to dig into Mia's past, her previous jobs, family, education, debts, even her mother's medical history. Soon after, rumors began to spread. Mia had once worked in a cheap bar, had been sued for negligence after a catering delay for a VIP. Whispers grew louder. Mia started to notice the change in how people looked at her in the estate. One afternoon, Evelyn summoned Mia to her private tea room. "Sit," she said, eyes not meeting hers. "I've heard some talk," Evelyn continued. "Do you have anything to say?" Mia didn't defend herself. She simply bowed her head, took a deep breath. "I've done many small jobs to support my mother. I never went to college. I never imagined I'd stand in a house like this." She looked up, voice steady. "But if you think I'm here for Ethan's money, then you're wrong." Evelyn looked at her, longer than usual. She didn't smile, but the coldness in her eyes had faded. "That answer doesn't sound like PR," she said. "And I've had enough of PR." That line was a beginning. When Ethan found out, he was furious. "Julian went after your private life. I'll handle him." But Mia shook her head. "I don't need rescuing. I just need you to believe me." Ethan said nothing. But in his eyes, for the first time, Mia saw something that wasn't pretend. That night, after the gala, they sat under the porch lights with the vineyard breeze humming softly around them. Ethan turned to her. "You know, when this started, I thought I was hiring an actress." Mia smiled. "And I thought I was playing a role I didn't belong in. But now," he paused, "I'm scared that when this role ends, I'll lose you for real." Mia didn't reply, but her hand, slowly, gently, reached for his. And no one mentioned the agreement ever again. 2 days after the gala, a strange tension settled over the Westwood estate. Mia had grown quieter. Ethan busier than usual, but clearly uneasy. They didn't speak much, but when they looked at each other, they understood. Both could sense it. This peace was just the calm before the storm. And the storm came. It started when Ethan noticed Mia's phone had been off all day. At first, he thought she just needed space. But as evening came and no one at the estate had seen her, a heavy dread settled in his chest. He called Rosa. No one knew where Mia had gone. She'd left no note, no belongings. All that remained was the necklace Ethan had given her. A simple gift, secretly embedded with a GPS tracker. He opened the tracking app. The signal pulsed from an industrial zone outside the city. His heart pounding, Ethan jumped into his car and drove. Mia was locked in a narrow concrete room, cold and bare, with only a small window near the ceiling. Her hands were tied, but her mind was racing. Every escape scenario ran through her head. Trick the guard, cut the ropes, use anything sharp. She knew exactly who was behind this. "Julian." The door opened. He stepped in, cold and smug. "Apologies for the rough entrance," Julian sneered. "But you must understand, you're the reason Ethan might inherit everything. That ends now." Mia clenched her fists. "You'll never win." Julian smirked. "I just need Ethan to show up, sign away his rights. Then you can leave, or not. That's up to him." Mia glanced at the window. Through the grimy glass, she saw a narrow river flowing beyond the building, fast and cold. She knew then she had to get out. No matter what. Meanwhile, Ethan drove like a madman. The GPS led him to an abandoned warehouse 40 minutes north of Napa. His heart thudded in his chest as the blinking signal stopped moving. He bolted out of the car, heading straight toward the building. Inside, Mia had dragged a chair under the window. She'd been rubbing her restraints against a sharp metal edge for over an hour, and now they were finally loosening. She climbed the chair, shoved open the window, and looked down. The river was rushing below, 3 meters down. Behind her, footsteps echoed. Julian was coming back, no time to think. Mia jumped. Water exploded around her, cold, shocking, brutal. She surfaced, gasping, flailing, then started to swim. At that moment, Ethan burst into the warehouse. "Mia!" he shouted. Julian stepped out from the shadows, scowling. "Too late, Ethan!" Ethan charged, slamming a punch into Julian's jaw. The two fought hard, wild, vicious. Ethan gained the upper hand, but he didn't stop. "Where is she?" he roared. Julian laughed darkly. "Ask the river." Panic surged through Ethan. He ran to the window. His eyes scanned the water. And then he saw her, clinging to a jagged rock, trying to pull herself from the current. "Mia!" he yelled, racing down the slope. He slipped, soaked instantly, but reached her. He grabbed her hands and dragged her up onto the muddy bank. She coughed, shivering, trembling, but conscious. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her like she might vanish. "You really came," Mia whispered, tears mixing with river water. Ethan nodded, cupped her face, and said softly, "I'll always come, because I love you." No contracts, no conditions, just one truth, spoken beneath a cold night sky. That night, Mia sat on the bench outside the porch, wrapped in a thick blanket. A soft breeze swept through the vineyard, bringing with it the familiar scent of the earth. She had showered, received medical care, and physically. She was fine, but her mind was still a mess. Footsteps sounded behind her. Ethan approached, wearing a dark sweater, holding 2 mugs of hot cocoa. "For you." He handed her one and sat down beside her. Mia took it. They sat in silence for a while, listening to the crickets and the soft hum of the nightlights behind them. "I thought you wouldn't make it in time," she said quietly. Ethan stared straight ahead, voice low. "I used to think I shouldn't allow myself to feel anything, because when you love someone, you lose control." "And you hate losing control?" Mia asked. "Until I met you?" He turned to her, eyes meeting hers. No roles, no pretending. "When you disappeared, my whole world collapsed." Mia said nothing. Her hands gripped the cocoa tighter. "When I saw you by the river, wet, shivering, but alive, still fighting, I knew I couldn't lose you, in any way." She turned her face toward him, their eyes locked. "What about the agreement?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't need it anymore. I just need you. The real you, no pretending." A pause. Then Mia gently leaned her head against his shoulder. And in that moment, they both understood. Love had passed the edge of logic, and now it was real. Since that night, there was no need for labels between Ethan and Mia. Their hands found each other naturally. Their eyes met without reason. No more pretending, no more lines drawn. But there was still something left unsaid, something Ethan had carried in his chest for far too long. And now, with every wall finally down, he knew it was time to turn feeling into a promise. A week after things had settled, Ethan said to Mia, "I want to take you somewhere, Just the two of us. No limos, no assistants, no elaborate plans. Just a late afternoon, the golden hour casting warm light over the vineyard behind the Westwood estate. Ethan had prepared everything himself, a small table set between neat rows of vines, warm string lights, red wine, and a simple dish made of Mia's favorite ingredients. "Did you ever imagine a CEO would set up a table like this himself?" Ethan asked when he saw Mia approaching. "No, but I never thought I'd wear a dress like this. For love, either." Mia smiled, slightly shy. Ethan pulled out her chair. They sat down together, surrounded by crickets and falling light. Neither rushed the conversation. Dinner passed slowly, quietly, peacefully. After dessert, Ethan suddenly stood. Mia looked up, about to ask something, but he had already stepped beside her, pulling a small velvet box from his jacket. "I used to think love was a weakness, a distraction." His voice wasn't loud, but every word lingered in the air. "But you taught me that love is courage. It's trust, sacrifice, letting someone see the most vulnerable part of you." He got down on one knee, opened the box. Inside was a delicate, elegant ring. "Mia Flores, you're not just the woman I love. You're the reason I want to be a better man every day." "Please," he smiled, eyes glowing with sincerity. "Will you marry me?" Mia froze. She looked at him, eyes shimmering. For a moment, time stopped. Only heartbeats and wind rustling through grape leaves remained. "Ethan," she whispered, "I used to think loving you was just a role I was playing. But no one can pretend to be themselves forever." She nodded. "Yes, I will." Ethan stood, slipped the ring on her finger, then pulled her into a deep embrace. But as she leaned into him, Mia whispered, "I'm still scared." Ethan looked down. "Because of Julian?" Mia nodded slightly. I feel like he's not done yet." Ethan held her tighter. "Maybe he isn't, but I won't let him touch you again. This time, I'm not protecting you because of a deal. I'm doing it as your future husband." And Mia believed him, not because of the words, but because of the embrace, the look in his eyes, and the man standing in front of her, unguarded, unconditional, and in love. After the proposal, their lives turned a new page. Evelyn formally accepted Mia as part of the family. The Westwood estate buzzed with wedding preparations. Smiles graced every corner of the house. But behind all the excitement, there was something both Mia and Ethan could feel, though neither spoke it aloud. Julian had not disappeared. His silence wasn't an ending, it was the calm before the storm. And then came the wedding day, a day everyone had been waiting for, but also the day they would have to face their final test. Their wedding was held on a cool autumn day. Piano music floated gently through the Westwood estate's garden. White chairs lined the green lawn. Flowers draped the aisle in soft color, making the entire setting look like something out of a dream. Ethan stood at the altar in a simple black tux, hands tense with nerves. Evelyn sat in the front row, her expression emotional but proud. And then Mia appeared. Wearing a white dress, simple yet elegant, she walked slowly down the aisle. Eyes filled with awe followed her. No one had imagined that the kitchen girl would stand here today, in a dress that fit her not just in size, but in purpose. Ethan never looked away. When she reached him, he whispered, "I used to think no one could make me believe in marriage. Then you came along." Mia smiled, squeezing his hand. The ceremony began. The officiant had just started the vows when a cold voice interrupted, "Wait." All heads turned toward the back. Julian. He stepped forward, holding a folder and a USB stick. "Before this wedding proceeds, I think everyone should know the truth about our bride." Ethan moved in front of Mia. "Julian, that's enough." Julian ignored him, his voice rising. I have the original audio, proof that Ethan and Mia's relationship started as a staged contract to deceive Evelyn and secure his inheritance. A ripple of murmurs spread through the guests. Julian handed the USB to the AV technician. The big screen flickered, ready to play the so-called evidence. But just before the sound began, Evelyn rose to her feet. "Stop it." Silence fell. "I already know about the contract. I was the first to find out, but I was also the one who watched love grow from what began as lies." Her gaze cut through Julian like ice. "You really think I'm too old to recognize a poorly edited recording?" Julian hesitated. Before he could speak, police officers stepped forward. "Julian Westwood?" one asked. "You're under arrest for kidnapping and aggravated assault based on evidence collected near Napa Valley last week." "What?" Julian turned to Ethan. "You reported me?" Ethan said nothing. He just held Mia's hand tighter. Two officers stepped in and cuffed Julian in front of everyone. Julian's voice turned cold. "You think it ends here? One day you'll wish I had taken everything?" His smile was venom. Then the officers led him away. The police led him away from the aisle. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the officiant cleared his throat gently. "Well, if there are no further objections, shall we continue?" Laughter bubbled through the crowd. Ethan turned to Mia, voice low but steady. "This time, nothing can stop me." Mia smiled. "I've been waiting to say, I do." The wedding continued afterwards, and when the final question came, Ethan answered without hesitation. Mia, with tears glistening, whispered, "I do." Applause erupted. Flower petals rained down from above. They shared their first kiss as husband and wife. No more contracts, no more doubts. Just real love, standing firm after every storm. The wedding ended in laughter, tears, and heartfelt blessings. No more pretending, no more trials. Just Ethan and Mia. Two people who began for the wrong reasons, but stayed for the truest one, love. But their journey didn't end there, because true love doesn't stop at a wedding. It begins in what comes after, simple, everyday moments that matter most. 2 years later. A small house sat on a hillside overlooking the ocean in Santa Barbara. In the early morning, soft mist settled on the brown-tiled roof, waves whispered below, and the smell of warm coffee filled the kitchen. Mia stepped out of the bedroom, hair in a loose bun, bottle in hand, for the baby stirring in the bassinet by the window. Liam, their 10-month-old son, with Ethan's deep brown eyes and Mia's brilliant smile. "Up early again, huh?" Mia smiled, lifting him gently. The baby babbled, reaching for her hair. As Mia cradled him, she gazed out at the ocean where the sunrise painted golden lines across the waves. She still wasn't used to the quiet. After everything, this peace felt almost unreal. Then came the familiar footsteps behind her, Ethan's voice, warm and low. "I keep thinking I'm dreaming when I see the two of you like this." Mia turned. Ethan wore a simple tee and joggers, coffee in hand, face soft and content. No longer a CEO in a suit, but a man, a husband, a father, and someone who chose this life fully. "I'm teaching him how to read the waves," Mia joked. Ethan kissed her forehead. "Then we're raising a future sailor." On weekends, Evelyn visited. Though in her 80s now, she was still sharp, just slower on her feet. Ethan had added a stone path from the driveway to the porch, just for her. "Does my great-grandson know I flew a plane in 1958? She said, holding Liam, her hands trembling but her eyes bright. "He does." "You've told him 30 times, Ethan laughed, pouring her tea. Mia served oat biscuits, Liam played with a plastic spoon in his high chair, and the whole family gathered. No staff, no assistants, no schedules. Just 3 generations soaking in a sunny Sunday morning. "Thank you for not giving up on him," Evelyn whispered to Mia later when they were alone on the balcony. Mia turned. Him who? My grandson, Ethan. He was ice once, and you melted him with patience. Mia smiled. We melted together, I think. But this time, it was real? In the afternoon, Ethan walked Liam along the beach. The boy was taking his first steps, holding tightly onto his father's hand. Mia followed behind, shoes in hand, dress swaying in the breeze. Do you remember the first time I called you my co-star? Ethan teased. Mia laughed. I do. And I remember the first time you called me your wife, you were a lot more nervous. Ethan stopped and turned. And now I wake up next to you every day, not as a part I'm playing, but in real life. Mia didn't answer. She just reached for his hand, lightly but firmly. That night, with Liam asleep, Ethan and Mia sat on the porch swing, listening to the waves below and watching moonlight sift through the trees. Do you ever regret giving it all up? Mia asked. You mean the office, the company, the deals? Yeah, Ethan shook his head. No, you and Liam are the biggest deal I've ever made. He stared out a while, then added, the world may have thought we started out as a lie, but only you and I know. Everything truly began when we chose to be real. Mia nodded, her eyes glistening in the moonlight. And love, in the end, isn't about roses or designer gowns, she said. It's 2 a.m. bottles, sore feet after chasing a baby, and someone beside you when you've run out of words. Ethan smiled. And I'll be that someone for the rest of our lives. The sea breeze danced lightly around them. From the living room came the distant sound of Liam's baby laugh. Mia smiled. That's his third laugh today. Ethan looked at her. Still better than any quarterly report I've ever written. And in that little house, without an audience, without applause, there were soft laughs and warm hands intertwined. A love that didn't start perfect, but ended in the truest peace there is.